you gonna get free this time? Falling into a blue sky mind. Came to me in that song, my friend.
Hello and welcome back to You, Me, and the Elephant with Deb Air.
And Krista here.
Oh, clearly we are excited for today's episode where we just hang out together in the space that we invite the elephant into the room and realize that the elephant in the room is just parts of us wanting to be known and wanting to be recognized and held. And we come in these conversations with curiosity. And I think curiosity gives the space for some of the stories to crack a little bit, to let the muses in, to let the ahas be born. So may today bring in the ahas, bring in a little bit more of you in you.
Yes, please.
Sign me up. Where do I sign my name for that? Our question is, what do you learn about life from your pet? And I'm going to tell you right now, if you're not a big animal person, I'm going to suggest that you keep listening because I feel like there could be some lovely gems. So thank you for coming. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for sitting with the elephant. Thank you for getting curious with us. Crystal and I were thinking about doing this podcast or this episode on animals. And it's an interesting thing because I think for me, this might just be me, that I have this internal desire, insatiable desire, and perhaps a standard that's come along with that. I want to have something that's profound to talk about. Like I like the deep, and I love silly, as you can see as well. And they don't necessarily have to be that much different. Anyways, we were going to do this episode on what do you learn from your pet? And then we were like, I don't know. And then as we always talk about that things are, when things are present for us, if you look outside, they're present in the field of awareness. And I talk about that in the last podcast, the part 2 of certainty and variety. But anyways, we were like, we nixed it for now. We'll come back to it. And then that same day I go out with friends to a play and I saw a friend that I hadn't seen in a long time. And she's like, oh, I miss your dogs. How are they? And then maybe a minute later, she's like, oh, I miss you too. and then we go into the play and there's this big TV screen and all it is animals. There's not just dogs and cats. There's a part of the play that has to do with Noah's Ark. So there's just like animals everywhere. And then the next morning I meet with a friend and she was telling me about this profound experience she had in the morning, and that her cat walks over her face twice at 3 a.m. And I've heard this called many things, but 3 a.m. can be called the witching hour. It could be called God's hours. It could be called the devil's hours, however you want to look at it. The point is that 3 a.m. in the morning tends to be that where the veil is thinner, that the eternal is more accessed, the life behind what we think our front life is all about. So she goes on to tell me what a profound awareness she had, how she connected more deeply with her body and had some really deep things show up for her. So I said to Crystal, I was like, I think we have to the field is like, no, it's a bumper. I think we try to figure shit out on our own a lot. I think especially in this country, I'm just going to do this on my own. I'll figure it out. It has to feel right, or I have to check all the boxes before I do it. And sometimes it's just right around there. It reminds me of Bruce Almighty. If you've ever seen that movie, yes. Bruce Almighty with Jim Carrey. And he's like, God, just show me a sign. And he's driving and there's a construction truck that has a sign that's like, stop, danger, and he's like, I don't understand. You're not talking to me. So I guess in the intro of this particular episode is a reminder to just look outside for a moment. And it doesn't all have to come, your choices don't all have to come from the mental yes or no of what you think internally. One thing that really drew me to speak about this is that just even in the 24-hour period of choosing not to do it, seeing how much People absolutely light up when we talk about, or they talk about their pets, or we talk about animals. If you think about
Mhm.
all the short little videos, like I
Yeah,
think
that's
you
what
were
we're talking
saying
about.
this.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's something so trustworthy in a way that allows us to melt. Whenever I've brought my dogs in
Mhm.
to the office, it's amazing because there's people that aren't necessarily dog people and they've come in, maybe they've had a bad day, they might be a little grumpy. And as soon as they see the puppies, they're like, ah, like
Like Huggies.
something puggies,
Yep.
something absolutely magical happens. And you see, it became a thing. I'm like, oh, this is a strategy. This is like a pre-session strategy
Mhm.
because people immediately from 0 to 100 forget about all the stuff they were persevering about, or at least a lot of it in that moment. And this is one of the things that I feel like I learn from my pets is they bring you into the present moment.
They do.
They're just like, I'm here. They're not perseverating about the thing. You come walk in the door
Mhm.
and it's like, I love you. And
That's
you
true.
could be grumpy.
Yeah.
You could have no makeup on. You could smell. They might like you better. You could be whatever parts that you judge mostly about yourself, and they will bring you right into the present, and they will fiercely love you.
Yes. Yes. There's been several places I've gone into that have had pets. One, for example, Taylor did that boxing. What was it called? It was a type of taekwondo, something like that. But he had a giant Great Dane in there. And I remember
Mm.
we went to join the class. They were all like, this is kind of our family guy. So are you okay with dogs? And here we were like, absolutely. And every time he was in there, Taylor, that's all she talked about on the way home. How big this dog was, where he sat, what he did. It just
Yeah,
totally, even though she's in there for a kickboxing experience, her heart
yeah,
and her attention was on this big, beautiful creature that wasn't even her pet, but in
yeah.
that environment, the owner, that was his kid.
Right. And you said where it sat, how it like I feel about 85-90% of my camera roll on my phone is pictures
Mm,
of my dogs. And
yes. My
probably
poor children.
50 or 40 or 50% of that is probably of just them sleeping
Yes.
beautifully. And I'm thinking,
Yes.
would we do that to adults? Would we be like, oh, look at maybe if they're babies, so we can love babies and think they're adorable, but let's just move it up into adults. And in our quandary today, our temptation is how can we take what we learn from our pets and apply that to if you were driving down the road and someone maybe I accidentally cut you off and you're like bleepity bleepity bleepy, could you
Mhm.
imagine that they're a cute little puppy? Could you
They
imagine
have a
just for
cute
a
puppy in
moment?
the car and be like, oh my God, they must be trying to get that cute little puppy home.
But I'm saying, even can you imagine that that person is a puppy? Because I think there is a pain in our humanity in knowing how to trust and love other people. We may have our close knit group or posse, family, and sometimes even that is
I
hard,
was about
right?
to
We try
say,
to do
even
everything.
them.
Yeah, right. There can be a lot of polarity in our families, most definitely. But the point is, outside of our scope of trust and comfort, whatever that is for you, it can be hard to trust people and think the best of them. It's easy. It's very easy to think the worst. Just look at road rage, right? And can we see it through a puppy's eyes? Can we see it through a child's eyes? I remember driving once and somebody gave me the finger. I don't even know why they gave me the finger. And my son was really young in the back seat. And he was like, oh, mama, do you know that person? I was like,
They're
oh,
waving
no,
at you with one
they're
finger.
just, yeah, they're just greeting me. And he was like, oh, okay. Because he saw it like, oh, they're gesturing to you. So he wasn't in already that cultural story of, wow, that person is a jerk. That person is what, blah, blah, blah. This whole thing goes on. And it just adds to our challenge with people really sinking into people. So I think for me, speaking about this is a really good pause point
Mhm.
to have me consider, like even my neighbors, I see them all the time and I smile at them and I say hi. But for me, it's an invitation to, well, I'll say it this way. Dogs also, why I think they bring us into presence is they don't verbally communicate through the same language that we do. They can verbally
So.
communicate, but they're not using, I mean, how many times we're like, oh, I wish they could just talk to us, but they force us to see more. They force us into our touch, our love, our presence, looking them in the eye, getting playful, all these things that force us into presence because we don't have the ease of using words. And how many times do we perseverate on words that somebody said to us without looking at or considering the bigger moment? What's happening in the moment with me? What was happening in the moment with that person when they said that? What was happening in the relating between? What's some of the history? We don't look at the bigger moment. We perseverate on that person said this, and I'm going to hold that so tightly. But when we talk about our pets or animals, they look at us a certain way. They're loyal. I mean, I've even narrated for them. I mean, it's like when, because we desire that. But what they do is, like, I can narrate for my dog because I feel like I'm connected with
What they say,
him.
or what they would say, you know, exactly what they would say.
Yeah, right. Because we're addicted to the spoken language, is my point. And so I think that by remembering the presence that your animal brings to you, it can invite you to remember some of the presence of something other than the spoken word, something other than what might be really bothering you. And this is not about rerouting things that are uncomfortable. In fact, I'll go to that part for me. I spoke about The Office. If somebody was emoting or they were struggling, one of my dogs would just sit firmly right by the table, and they would just sit with them, and they would know, they would just organically go to that table. So it's not about rerouting the hard feelings. I think our pets can, and particularly I'm speaking about dogs right now, they can be with what is. They will love you, like I said, whether you're grumpy. They will be with you if you're sad.
Yeah.
They won't try to fix you. They'll just stand by the freaking table and be with you. And that was some of the magic that I see when the dogs come in the office, and how they became such a powerful impact of healing and reminding us that, oh, I can be accepted exactly as I am right now.
Yeah, it makes me think of Naughty when she does that. Like, if my dog, Naughty, my pocket bully, she will retreat if there's tension in the air, loud noises, Dylan playing basketball inside, whatever it is, she goes. But if there was a moment where I needed to go and just sit in silence, or maybe she could pick up on something with me, she would come out of her closet and come sit right by me or at my feet or look at me. And she would invite me in to the, let's just cuddle for a minute. How about just like this? There's this softness that's all she's, and it doesn't seem like they're doing it on purpose as a savior, right? That's not their intention. They just want to be with you. And when they're just with you in that moment, it seems like the gift that is always present is to open up your heart and invite you into the, let's let these other things sort of go away and just kind of be here in the moment, whether it's rubbing her belly or petting her, or she just lays on top of my feet, whatever it is. It's this really neutral, solid grounding energy that I find to be very interesting, because I may be up in my head or doing something that's taking me out of the present moment, and she's not coming to me, at least I don't think she's coming to me going, let me like bring her into the present moment. But that's her gift. She just naturally is always in the
She
present
is
moment.
in the
Like you
present
said,
moment.
she's just,
Yeah.
that's where she lives. So naturally, when she comes to the space, I can either choose to join that moment or I can get up and walk out. But like, more than likely, I'm going to choose to join that moment, to soften and
Totally.
to just be. And
They
it,
help us soften. That's it. And the other thing you said, if there's too much going on, she might leave the room. And this is the other thing I was thinking about is, I feel like our pets, our dog, like my dogs, teach me how to really have a voice and in clear boundaries of what we want and don't want. I have one of my dogs, Valentine, I soak their food. So it has to soak for a while. They know it's soaking. I could be anywhere in the house and I'm like, what do I feel? Why am I feeling? I turn around and he's just sitting solid, like staring deep into every crevice of my soul and my being. Cause he's like, I want that food. And it works. And then like Brewster, he's like, Mr. Paw, like, hey, hey. And I'm thinking, what's the urgency? And I'm like, oh, that's right. Thank you for the reminder. He's like, I want to eat. And the same with Naughty. She's just like, you know what? You guys are going to deal with this until you can soften. I'm out. So there's something about that. They can help us get into the present, but also being with, right? So leaving the room in her case is also saying there doesn't seem any room, there's no communication or opening here to be present and to be with what is.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna be out, I'm gonna somewhere where I can be present and that it's also safe. Like
Yes,
they
the
bring
basketball
safety.
situation.
The what?
In the basketball situation. Yes. Dylan has I wish I had it in here. He's got this foam basketball. So he
Okay.
legit plays basketball in the house. And
Got it.
the minute he picks up that ball and starts, she's like, boom,
I'm
bye.
out.
Like, I'm out.
Yeah.
You're not hitting
Yeah.
me with that thing.
Yeah, and I
Nico
think
will
that's,
stay. You can bounce it right by Nico's head and he just stays. He's just like, I'm
yeah.
fine. Okay. So
And I
it's
think
funny
there
too,
is
their
something
personalities, right? That's something too, how different our pets can be on their own.
totally, absolutely. I think the spontaneity of the differences, they certainly can be different, but it's the clarity. Nico's like, I'm good with this. And
Mm-hmm.
Nadia's, I'm not. But how many times in life do we stay in something because we don't want to hurt somebody's feelings? It's just not really where we want to be. But socially or communicative wise, we don't have the skill sets to be able to speak that. And
Mm-hmm.
because we, in general, don't have that, we tend to do things we really don't want to do, or we stay away from things that maybe we want to, but we're afraid or we don't feel like we have the energy to do it. And I think that these are beautiful examples of just that. They bring to me of like self compassion and certainly compassion for others. But I think it depends on who we are, whether we're really good at compassion outwardly or inwardly. And maybe we're just suck at it all around. But regardless, I think my dogs help me with that because they forgive me really quickly if I accidentally step on their toe or if I get grumpy and say something. There is an acceptance. You hear a lot of people talk about, I love my animal because they love me no matter what. They love me unconditionally. For me, what this brings up is that love, no matter what, I believe love doesn't have to leave the room. Love can say, I love you. This is amazing. Love can say, I love you and no.
Mm-hmm.
Love can say, I love you and that hurt. Love can say, this is hard, but I want to keep going. Love can say, I love you and I need to leave. That's what I see when Valentine's sitting at the table. It's not about having to take it on. It's not about loving and pretending like hard shit doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
But love doesn't ever have to leave the room. And that's what I feel like they teach me
I do.
is that you don't have to take your love away. You can actually be in the presence of love the best you know how in any given moment. And imagine that that person is a damn puppy, the cutest puppy, or if you're a cat person, the cutest cat, or if you're an elephant person, a cute elephant, little baby elephant with ears, whatever it is that softens you. That's what I want you to imagine this week. Look at somebody else that you're struggling with, especially, and just see that in them for a moment and
Mm-hmm.
imagine that just as a, I don't know, just as a playful thing to do and see what else is allowed in the cracks. Because we all need perspective shifts at times.
Yes.
We all get too close, and sometimes we need to take an eagle view, right? We need to zoom out a little bit. Considering what our pets bring is a great way to zoom out and consider what's possible to lean into our relationships a little more. As I think, especially with strangers, I think that
Hmm.
you can look outside the world and see a lot of hatred, By nature of being in this world, polarity exists. That's the duality of it. It's because there's so much imprinting of that constantly with violence and war. And you don't have to go very far. You can go on any kind of social media platform and see how much people are just really against a lot of things. I think there's a difference between being against and being able to be for love and persevere, like what needs to be done, what needs to be stopped, how you can come forward more. And it's not about, because we love unconditionally, let's say like our dog, we can learn that it doesn't mean you're a pushover.
Mm-hmm.
It means that love has got your back. And that makes, for me, it makes me even more courageous to say no when I need to say no, to speak up when I need to speak up, to leave the freaking room when I need to leave the room.
Yeah. When we first were going to talk about this, I
Yeah.
remember I immediately went to all my funny videos and all the ways. I'm like, oh, my pet. I just love my pet, all the things. But that is also something that has evolved over time, because I remember when my husband wanted to have these dogs, I was a hell to the no for dogs. I was a hell to the no because in my mind, I was like, that's work, that's time, that's energy, that's money, that's more for me to do. No, thank you.
Yeah.
But he was so adamant on having a dog, that we get a dog. And of course, everyone's googly eyed because it's an adorable puppy, and the heart just can't help but to be like, and I still had my mommy hat on going, yeah, that's cute and all, but he just peed on the floor. So how about we clean that up, you know? And then so we had him for about a year, and then he wants to have a second one, and we've never had a second pet before. And I was a real firm, no more pets. I don't want any more pets. Luckily, it was during the COVID time when we were home, but I kept going, how's that fair to the dogs? We're not home. The kids are not home. Or if we were not, we were home at the time. But that's just where my brain went. My brain went to all the things that this pet is going to burden me with. I couldn't help it. It was where I was, probably the season I was in, of maybe feeling the overwhelm and probably doing too much.
And
But
it's a real consideration. Let's
it
face
is.
it. It is a real
Like, this is
consideration.
reality. It is. And but as cute as those puppies were, did one of them eat drywall? Yes, they did. Have I had to like sand the baseboards down because we thought it was annoying for my teeth comfort? Yes, we have. Do I have a mini steam cleaner because I clean up vomit all the time? Yes, I do. Like, it's all the things that is the whole range. But the point, so I truly, up until that point, I'd always been, okay, it's a dog. It's something everybody else likes. Everyone else is super happy. Yes, I think it's cute, but moving on. I just kept going to the work of it. And then when we had our second dog, this dog gets hurt as a puppy. She was being held down the stairs, and a kiddo dropped the dog and almost broke her leg or misplaced her hip or something, screaming, crying, had to go to the emergency room. Anyway, they feel like she was going to die. And there was something about that. Me and her, it was just her and I at this emergency room, and going through this whole traumatic experience together just opened my eyes. There was such an equal exchange. This is not just a pet that we have purchased that lives with us as if a materialistic item. There was a true love exchange of this innocent being has been presented to me to entrust me for their comfort, their safety. We had this moment, and as she started to heal and grow and be with us for 2 years now, she is my little animal spirit animal dog. Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy. I've never had a pet open my heart the way that she does. And I don't know if it's because we had that moment of rescuing maybe one another, but it's just built into this thing. Like in my other dog, I love him. I love him too.
Whenever we have to preface that, because I do that with Brewster and Valentine, I'm like, oh, it's a little reflection. I'm like,
It is. It
and
is.
it's okay. We
Truth
love,
be told, I love Naughty more. I'm going to just say it. I do.
this has been said out in
Not
public
sugarcoating
on
anything.
the
There's
podcast.
something about this dog. Her and I, there's something happening. We were in the stars together, and now we're here on the earth and have looked up and have found one another.
Totally. That's beautiful, by the way. And I see that, and I get to, even though we don't live near each other, we're on video a lot. And so I get to see the background with Nadia on her back. She is part of your framework. When I see you, she's not too far away. And for me, your story goes back to, I think they beckon us to learn how to love and deeply and unconditionally. You were feeling the burdens and you were feeling the stress of it. And think about it. They love us whether doesn't matter. She loved you, whether you thought she was a burden, no matter what. She's going to keep loving you. I'm going to keep loving you. I'm going to keep loving you. I'm going to keep loving you.
I'm
Okay.
still
Well, you know
excited
what?
every time you enter the room.
I'm going to amp this up even more. And I'm going to have a trauma here. So you're going to just see it no matter what. You said something so profound in the way that you found each other. And I think there's a consistency that when you can even, and this is with animals or people, right? When you can stay with it long enough, when you can stay with the energy of life between one another long enough, you can unlock absolute presence and gifts that you would never get to. You would never see because you could only see the burden of it, the hard parts of it. But she forced you. Like, and there's so many different ways. And that story to me, that's what I hear. She was like, you will find love.
Mm,
Let me show you. And another thing that you said, the Toltec tradition and other indigenous cultures, it's thought that we have like the us and then there's the spirit us, and that it would come through animals. Even if you're not a pet person, is there even like a little archetype of animal? Sometimes different animals come in different ways. So like you said, each animal has their own personality. They have their own energy to them. That's kind of a fun thing too. I know at the office we have the animal spirit cards, and so many people will go,
mm.
"Oh my gosh, this really feels like it's resonant right now." And so whatever part of this conversation lights you up, I suggest just to have fun with it. And the other part too that I think is really special is that when people start getting spinal care, this wave will start to release through their spine, and naturally the body will want to unwind. We live in a culture that we can go and exercise, but we're less body led. Our mind will lead us to move our body and exercise. My point is often people will feel odd. Oh, am I going to move on the table? Should I stay still? How do I do the right thing here? So people will feel a little odd at first, but then they'll have this urge, and I'll say, think about a dog or cat in the morning. What is the first thing they do? The first thing they do is like yawn and stretch and move. They let the energy of life dictate like honor of their body first. What we do, we can be on our phones till when we go to bed. We get up, there's an alarm, we jump out of bed, we're in our thoughts already. It's almost like a
Mhm.
continuation, like
Mm,
nothing happened. They are just like, hold on, where do you think they got
mhm.
downward facing dog? They're like, ah, and they're making sounds. And we think it's the cutest thing ever, right? But if you see somebody out there and they're like, ah, you're like, are they sick? Are they okay? I think that's just another little gem. Can you wake up like your dog or cat does in the morning?
Mhm.
They like to honor their body first. They
They do.
move, and they're not doing asanas or Pilates exercises. They're just doing organic,
That's right.
following the energy of what their body wants to say hello and honor it for the day. And I think we have to remember that organic nature lies within us as well.
Yeah.
And it's great if you have a protocol of some kind of exercise or body routine. Absolutely. But can you also organically?
Yeah, exactly. Not be as structured, but just do it for the sake of doing
Yeah.
it. It feels good. It makes me feel like when it's time to go for a walk, all I have to do is rattle their little collar
Oh, yeah,
noises
right.
and
Yeah.
they fly to the door as if they've never had a walk before. And it's exciting. I'm like, yeah, we're going on a walk. This is fun. It's so simple, but their enthusiastic way of just being so ready, it don't matter if they've already gone on a walk, they're just ready, 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 can help bring that same kind of thing. I'm not just walking them, they're walking me, or we're
Yeah.
walking each other because
Sure.
it's just so fun. I'm not doing it to go get my steps. I'm doing it because they're so darn excited because we're going on a walk that I'm like, how can you not? I mean, look at this. Look at this joy that's
Yeah.
radiating out of them just to go peel on some trees. Like, what?
Yeah. I know. And the smells, it's amazing. How often do we slow down and smell the roses, right? They smell all the
Mhm.
pee. They smell
They
all
do all the
they're
things.
just like, this is
Right,
amazing,
get right up close and personal. Well, let
Yeah.
me figure out
What
all of who you are right now.
what if you woke up in the morning and you were like, okay, and you just let your body move, and then you went outside and you're seeing it for the first time, like, wow, this is amazing. The smells, the scents, the
Ah,
nature, it's amazing. It couldn't hurt. Let's just say
right.
that.
There
It
could be
couldn't
worse things.
hurt. I think we all could enjoy more fun-filled playfulness, presence. Somehow it's reminded me of Batman. I forget what of the zillion, the one with Heath Ledger. He was the Joker and he's like, why so serious?
Oh, yes.
So, sometimes we're serious when we don't need to be. And sometimes we actually need to be clear. Like dogs are also protectors. We need to get more clear with our boundaries or leave the room like Naughty does. It's really a beautiful act of trust, and many of us can have a hard time with intimacy, but yet we will be all up in our dogs or our cats. And that feeling, we all crave that feeling of softening, of touch, of love, remembering what your pet teaches you in life, to consider what you desire so much within yourself and how you might be able to broaden the scope of how you look at others in the world, and imagine them as little puppies or little kittens. Why not?
Indeed.
Until next time, thank you. Thank you. Gracias. And now, Trevor Hall with Blue Sky Mind.